I live in northern Arizona, up in Prescott, Arizona, about 120 miles north of Phoenix. I like coming to LA area. It takes me 3 hours to drive to Phoenix Airport. And yesterday it took me, it's an hour and a half flight to LA. Yesterday it took me 10 hours. Just the joys of travel. But everybody in this room has had influences in your life from childhood to your teen years to your young adult years, and even now, that have helped develop your character and your integrity. And character and integrity is developed. It is not inherited. And I had some events in my life that I'm going to tell you about that help, and the people that help develop that character and integrity, and which is why Hollywood decided they want to make a movie, which we just completed post-production last week, and it's being shipped to distributors for hopefully distribution Monday. But I was born in Chicago, Illinois, and at 2 years old, my mother divorced my father and just left me with a note and said, here, he's all yours, and I had no idea where she went. And the next, from 2 to 5 years old, was very joyful life. Now, you saw that I'm a retired homicide detective, and we've learned through forensic interviewing that from age 2 year on, a child can remember events. They can describe events to you, even at 2 years old. And like I said, it was very joyful. I lived with my grandparents, my dad on the weekends, aunts, uncles, cousins. It was just a lot of fun. When I started kindergarten, halfway through kindergarten, a lady approached me, grabbed me off a playground, said, I'm your mother, and drugged me off. I had no idea who this was. I'm screaming, I'm yelling like a typical 5-year-old will. A couple smacks on the head kind of stopped that. And she said, I'm taking you away from your father, we're going to Arizona. Now, my father had full custody, and in fact, a court order against her, even back in the early 50s or 40s, that could prevent her from having me. The Arizona trip, as she said, she took a strange route. We ended up in Michigan. And the reason she went to Michigan was she had to get money. She was a waitress. She never really kept a job for a long time. And for 5 years we lived in Michigan, but we lived in such remote areas that she knew my father was always trying to look for us. We lived in a tent during the summer times in a state park. As the fall weather came, we'd live in the car. Then when it got so cold, she'd find some old house somewhere, some old farmhouse, and always way out of the way, always rural schools, always where I could not have friends to play with outside of school, and then nothing after that. So it was a very, very rough life. Food was always an issue. But I was always grateful for every now and then somebody would help us out. At 10 years old, my father somehow, maybe that's why I'm a detective, found us. And we were so far out of this little town in South Haven, Michigan, that he had to walk. He couldn't even only take a cab so far, they wouldn't go any further. Found us, told my mother that there's a warrant out for her, and in fact, he's going back in town, notify the sheriff's department, and get me. And when he went back in town, my mother threw everything we had in the back of an old station wagon. She said, we're going to Arizona. And again, I'm not happy about this. My dad had found us. We started a trip to Arizona, and it took about 6 weeks. And the reason it took so long is because she ran out of gas. The car would break down. She would get a job in a restaurant for just a day or two, get some tip money, enough for gas, tires, car repair. And again, we're sleeping in the car the whole time. Sanitaries, things were at a gas station. We could take a sponge bath type thing at a gas station. Again, kind of somewhat traumatic. We ended up in a little town called Seligman, Arizona on old Route 66. Anybody remember the movie Cars, the Disney movie Cars? Radiator Springs is Seligman, Arizona. I was so fortunate, I have still friends up there that run a restaurant. And just before that movie, when they were developing it, the imagers from Disney were up there talking to people that used to live there in the 50s. And the owner said, talk to him. He was a kid here in the 50s. So I kind of think maybe some of my ideas helped develop Radiator Springs. But just outside of Seligman, ran out of gas, everything. The car broke down. My mother's crying. She says, we have no money. There's nothing left, not a penny. And she's crying, what are we going to do? A rancher stopped by on the highway. What's wrong? She explained the situation. He said, I'm going to bring a gas can. You're coming to our house, and we're going to take care of you until you can get established here in Seligman. Now, Seligman is a population then of 400 people, predominantly Mexican and Indian. It was a cowboy railroad town and also a division point for the Santa Fe Railroad. Took us into the house, and for the next 6 months, we lived, our beds were on the kitchen floor and a couple bedrolls. But we were eating. We were having some actual shelter. And I started thinking on how grateful you can be to people. At 10 years old, I started a full-time job washing dishes at the local restaurant. My mother got a job as a motel maid. And again, I'm grateful for all of a sudden we can do it, but food again was always an issue because the restaurant, you had to pay for your meals. They just didn't give them to you. And there was never enough money because any money I made had to go straight to my mother. During about 6 months later, I met a gentleman named Juan Delgadillo. And Juan became my father figure, my mentor. He had a little operation across the street he was building called the Snow Cap, which is kind of identical to a Dairy Queen. Out in the middle of nowhere, Route 66. In fact, I walk across the street, he's building this thing. I said, hi, what are you doing? He says, what's your name? I said, Frank. He said, no, from now on it's Pancho. Grab a hammer, kid. And I had no idea what to do. I'd never had a father figure to teach me any of the skills like this. Well, like I say, Juan became a super good friend. And about now we're a year into it, and some ranchers found an old hunting trailer that they said, we're going to fix up. You're going to have a little bit of a home that was parked behind a motel where my mother was living. We had cold water and a sewer, no heat, but at least it was something. But Juan and a lot of people in the town would bring us beans, tortillas, anything to help us out. And Juan, one day I was talking to him, he said, Frank, when you can, give back. Now, this is the 50s. This wasn't a popular term, just like you heard the other gentleman talk about give back. And I said, Juan, how can we give back? We don't have a thing. Food is always an issue. He said, Frank, you don't have to have money to give back. Give back your time. He said, look at Mrs. Ortega. They're always bringing you food. They've got an old caboose off the Santa Fe line they brought into town. They're trying to make it to home. They're trying to paint it, make it look nice. You can help scrape and paint. You can give your time. Look at the widow Sanchez. Look at her yard. It's full of weeds. She's always trying to help you out. You can go clean up that yard, help her fix up that house. You can give back. And I always remembered that. Juan, again, he introduced me to sports. He introduced me to music, something I'd never played for. And I had all sorts of friends all of a sudden the first time in this little town of Seligman. Introduced me to rodeo. I thought I was going to be a bull rider for a few years. And I tried it out, but as I got older, the bulls won, let's put it that way. But helped me get the entry money to be entered into the rodeos. I started 7th grade, came home from school, and I see our little travel trailer being hooked up to a truck. Go to my mother. I say, what's going on? She says, I can't afford you anymore. You're on your own, I'm moving. Now this would be very traumatic, and it was. I watched my home go down the old 66. I went to Juan, I said, what am I gonna do? I'm lost now, what do I do? And he said, Frank, you have to learn to turn the negative into the positive. Now you've heard this term a lot of times, but again, this is the early 50s. I said, what do you mean? He said, I've just made arrangements, I know what's happening, for you to live with widow Sanchez. He said, you make $26 a week. She's going to charge you $20 a week to live at her place. It includes room and board, meals. And he said, the positive thing is, for the first time, you're going to have your own room. You're going to have a bathroom, a shower, your own bed. And she's the best cook in town, which we knew that. But the big plus, he said, she got the first television in Seligman, Arizona. So all of a sudden, Mickey Mouse Club and that, wow, all of this is great. So learn to turn that negative to the positive. When I started high school, my mother got a hold of me. She said, I need your help. She's living in a town called Prescott, Arizona, where I currently reside. Please come here, get a job. I need help financially. Well, we didn't have a close relationship, but she's my mother. I respected her, and I did go to Prescott. Again, people wanted to help out. The little town of Seligman, the school system was very bad compared to the big high school in the big city, and they wanted to put me back into 8th grade. I had got really involved with sports. The Indian boys, Mexican boys taught me so much, and the coaches saw that, And when they learned they wanted to put me back, they said, we're going to help tutor, we're going to get you up. And for the next 2 months before school started, they tutored me and got me up where I could pass all the tests to, in fact, enter high school. And I remembered that. Here's people again that are helping me out. There was no negative part of my life. Following high school, I joined the Air Force, and Vietnam era. I was stationed over in England, and great career, great, again, because of the work ethic that Juan had taught me. Advanced right away, got selected for all the special details, was a base honor guard. When Winston Churchill died, I was selected to be on his honor guard, which to me was a big thrill in my life. Following the Air Force, I was going to go back to Prescott, Arizona, and Motorola was hiring. This is during the Atlas space age. And what they were looking for was the Vietnam era veterans, because this is now the late 60s. This is the hippie years, right? The vans, the dope, everything else. And they couldn't find the people to work for them that had the work ethic, the integrity, but they knew the veterans did. And applied for it, was accepted, and a great job. Motorola sent me to school along with the GI Bill to college. And my teachers got a big kick out of this because I ended up in statistical engineering. We would determine a failure rate of a part that if it was going to cause the missile to fail or not. A great job, great advancement, a lot of money. But I got very bored. I'm a small town boy. It was the suit and tie every day, the same thing every day. And several of my friends in high school had joined the Arizona Highway Patrol. And they always said, Frank, why don't you apply? This would be your adrenaline junkie. Why don't you do this? Plus your background in mathematics is going to be great for an accident investigation. You're going to be ahead of your class. I thought, on a whim, I'll apply. In 1972, there was 10,000, imagine that, 10,000 applications for a class of 50. After the elimination process, the majority of them couldn't pass the drug test. I was one of the 50 selected to join the patrol, and that started a great 42-year career. I was assigned down to the Yuma, Arizona area as a car officer and going to continuing college classes there. One of the coaches came up to me and said, we heard that you were playing football and that in high school. We have a program called Special Olympics that we would like you to get involved in and teach baseball, throw, some basketball. Well, yeah, I'd love to do that. And that was my first time involved with the children. And as I'm doing that, I've started thinking about Juan. Juan, I think I'm starting to give back a little bit. After a couple of years there, I was asked to join a 10-man motorcycle unit that was newly formed that was going to work the whole state of Arizona. 2 weeks in one town, 2 weeks in another town. We did our initial training with California Highway Patrol up in Sacramento. Our equipment was identical. Our uniforms were almost identical, except ours obviously said Arizona. And during that time, we would go to little towns, and I would ask if I could go to the grade schools and talk about bicycle safety, which the kids could care less about. But the television show Chips became very popular. Anybody going to shake their head and say they know? Well, every one of you are showing your age if you're saying that. But it was so popular with the kids. And in fact, we'd always ride in two-man teams as we go into town. All of a sudden, the kids are yelling, hey, Ponch, hey, John. So it was great PR, especially going to the schools and talking about the kids. They could care less about bicycle safety. They wanted to get out on motorcycles, and that was fine. Great PR tool. In 1978, I was working by the California-Arizona border by the Colorado River, little town called Park, Arizona, population about 1,000. During spring college break, it grows to 80,000 people. Sex, drugs, and rock and roll, homicides, fatal accidents, just name it, rape, it was going on there. And they would send our whole unit there, the whole 10-man unit, along with several highway patrol officers. I was involved in a high-speed chase, 80 miles an hour, with a drunk driver, when another drunk driver pulled directly in front of me, no chance to break and escape, as we call it, hit him broadside at 80. I was told the crash was spectacular. Motorcycles flying high in the air, me a little bit higher, pronounced dead at the scene. Oh, you're looking at me, huh? My partner tried to revive me. He couldn't do it. He called in. I heard these tapes later. 963A, officer killed in the line of duty. An off-duty emergency room nurse from California stopped at the scene, said, please allow me to try. I'm an ER nurse. Please. And he said, he's dead. We have nothing. She didn't listen to him, thank God. and after 4 minutes, brought me back to life. Now, I learned, talking to the psychologist later, that I went through what they call a tunnel. Some of you may have heard this. As your life goes away, the tunnel closes, light closes, and you're dead. When they bring you back to life, there's a little bit of light that starts. All of a sudden, you're alive again. Obviously, you're breathing, your heart's going. And I learned also about the senses when you come back to life. The senses that you have start working again. And my first sense that I recall after talking to psychologists was the sense of hearing. I'm hearing all these sirens. I'm hearing people yelling, she's brought them back, she's brought them back. What are they talking about? I had no idea. The sense of smell, something very sweet, something very pleasant. The sense of touch, something's tickling my face. The sense of sight. I open my eyes and here's this beautiful blonde with a lip lock on me. And if this is heaven, this is okay, I'm fine. This is. Now, I learned later that my partner had also tried to revive me with mouth to mouth, and I'm so glad I didn't wake up to him. Ugly guy, big bushy mustache, full of bugs all the time. That would have been traumatic forever. But it took several months to recover from that accident. Massive skull fracture, traumatic brain injury, broken bones, a lot of missing skin. And during that time, I had to go to a psychologist. They had to make sure that I was okay to go back to duty eventually when everything healed. And towards the end of that lessons, the psychologist said to me, Frank, God spared you for a reason. It's up to you to find that reason. Now, I've never worked with a police officer in 42 years that does not believe in a higher being. We go to work every day, we say a little prayer, please allow me to come home. We get home at night, we say thank you for allowing me to come home. In 1980, I had a beat that went from the Phoenix area clear up into the mountains, about 100 miles. It was one of those days in April I knew it was going to be special. We start out what we call in our leathers. It was very chilly in Phoenix. As we get up to 5,000 feet, it gets colder. And we have to run the whole route to make sure during the night that no cars have gone over the sides of the mountain, etc. Just one of those great days. I get a call from a dispatcher to please check out at a telephone. Now, this is 1980, no cell phones, folks, so understand that. We have emergency traffic. It does not involve your family. It was 40 miles to the nearest payphone. I call in, what's up? They said, we have just been informed of a 7-year-old boy named Chris. Chris has terminal leukemia. Chris is only going to live probably 2 or 3 more days. And we found out that his heroes are Ponch and John from the television show Chips. And he told his mother, I wish when I grow up, I could be a motorcycle officer just like Ponch and John. The family asked if there's any way that the Highway Patrol, Arizona Highway Patrol, could do anything for that little boy. With the permission of his doctor, his mother, Chris is picked up at his hospital in our state police helicopter, flown to our headquarters building, where our commanders asked me to be standing by with a motorcycle. It was just one of those things, because I had worked with the kids all over the state, they thought maybe I'd be a good contact to meet this little boy. God was now introducing us. Helicopter landed, I have no idea what to expect. Our paramedics said, he'd just come off IVs, I think they're gonna help him out, put him in a wheelchair. Helicopter land, doors open, little pair of red sneakers jumps out running over to me. Hi, I'm Chris, can I get on your motorcycle? This little boy is just all giggles and grins. And he had watched Chips so much, and remember, our equipment was identical. This is a siren, can I turn it on? These are the red lights, this is this. What's in your saddlebag? It's the same as Ponch. He's just laughing and giggling, having so much fun. And I look at his mother, and she's got tears in her eyes, and I can't understand that. Then it dawns on me, she has her 7-year-old back. Here's the little boy off IVs, and now he's just having so much fun. Chris went on that day to become the first and only honorary Highway Patrol motorcycle officer in the history of the Arizona Highway Patrol, complete with his own badge, his own hat, the certificate making him the full patrolman. And he got to go home that night. His doctor said, I don't understand what's wrong, what's going on here, but his vitals are so good, let him go to his comfort zone. Well, we had felt good about what we did. And we said, well, wait a minute, we have a highway patrolman, but they need a uniform. And uniforms are custom made in those days. We get to the tailor shop just about the time they're closing. We say, listen, we've got this 7-year-old boy. He's about this high, this wide. Can you make a uniform for Chris? 2 ladies spent all night making this custom uniform for Chris. Our commanders gave me permission the next morning to go to Chris's house, leading several highway patrol motorcycles, patrol cars, to his house, about 8 in the morning, red lights and sirens. You can imagine the neighbors, right? What's going on in our place? Chris comes running out of the house, just so happy to see us. We present him his uniform. He can't believe it. He runs in the house and just comes out strutting, just strutting. He's got the smoky hat on, as we call it. And he comes over to me and he starts rubbing the wings of my uniform. He said, "Frank, I wish I could be," this is the first time I heard this word from him, "I wish I could be a motorcycle officer." I started teasing Chris and I talked about the training we were doing, and I said, if you only had a motorcycle, we could put traffic cones in your driveway and train you right now. Chris was a step ahead of me. He runs in the house and comes riding out on a little battery-operated motorcycle that his mother had got for him in place of a wheelchair. And he's got on our helmet we gave him. He's got on aviator glasses his mother got him. But what really, all our guys are laughing is motorcycle officers wear the high-top boots to protect your legs. His mother got him a pair of what we call on a ranch mucking boots that he stuck his pants in. He's looking like a motorcycle officer. We set up the cones. He goes through it, comes back. "Did I pass?" "Yes, you did, Chris." "When do I get my wings?" That was very important to him. Again, those were special order from a jeweler. I said, "Those are going to take a couple days, Chris." He got to stay home again for the next 2 days. His vitals were so good. Just a couple days later, I pick up the wings. I get a call. Chris is in the hospital in a coma, probably not going to survive the day. I got permission to go to the hospital. I walk in his room. His uniform is hanging right by his bed. Just as I pinned on the wings, he comes out of the coma. He looks at me. He starts smiling, very weak voice. "Am I a motorcycle officer now?" "Yes, you are, Chris." He asked for his uniform. He's rubbing the wings. He's showing his mother. He's giggling. And unfortunately, a couple hours later, he passed away. And I always like to think maybe those wings helped carry him to heaven. Our commanders, thank you. Our commanders learned that Chris was going to be buried in a little town called Kewanee, Illinois, and came to me and said, "We have lost a fellow officer. We would like you and another motorcycle officer to go back to Kewanee and give this little boy a full police funeral." They couldn't pay officially for it, so the hat was passed all over the state to collect enough money for airfares for me and my partner to go back to Illinois. When we landed in Illinois, I had a stepbrother that lived there, and we borrowed his Jeep. It was about 140 miles of this little town of Kewanee. And we're driving a Jeep. This is back in the old 55-mile-an-hour speed days. What a mess that was. And we're in full dress uniform. And all of a sudden, red lights behind us, and what the heck, it's Illinois State Police. And I look, I said, "I'm not speeding, what are we doing wrong?" I pull over, obviously. Trooper comes up and he says, "I just want to know why you guys are wearing some type of police uniform. What are you guys up to?" So we tell him what's going on, and he said, "Hey, my former partner moved to Arizona hoping to become a motorcycle officer with a highway patrol. Here's his name, I wonder if he ever made it." This is a small world thing going on. I said, "You know what, I just finished training him. He just started duty a couple of weeks ago." Told him what we're doing, and he said, "I'm going to give you an escort to the end of my jurisdiction. Another trooper's going to pick you up, or we're going to get you to Kewanee, Illinois, so there's no problems." We get to Kewanee, Illinois, and we were met by several state police cars, city police, county police. He had radioed ahead to his commander to tell him what's going on. Everybody chipped in to give this little boy a full police funeral and escort. Chris was buried in uniform. His grave marker reads, "Chris Gracious, Arizona Trooper." But, oh, thank you. Coming back, flying back to Arizona, I just started thinking, here's a little boy who had a wish, and we made it happen. Why can't we do that for other children? And that's when the idea of the Make-A-Wish Foundation was born. Let's let a child make a wish, and we'll make it happen. Somewhere 36,000 feet over Kansas or somewhere. When his mother returned from Illinois, I approached her with the idea, and she said, "Oh my God, let's do this." Now, how do you start a foundation? I have no idea. There's no internet in these days. Anybody remember library cards? Yeah. Thank you, yeah. Again, you're showing your age. Go to the library and start researching this, what we have to do, how to get a 501c3. But the hardest part was finding, in Arizona, you had to have 5 total people to develop a nonprofit. finding the 4 other like-minded people was the most difficult part. Everybody that was involved with this with me, no, it'll never work. We've never heard of anything like this. It's not going to happen. Juan turned those negatives to positive, right? And I did that. We finally found the 4 other people that would help me put this together. In November, this is 6 months later, of 1980, we became official. Make-A-Wish Foundation was officially born. In March of 1981, we granted our first official wish. Again, a 7-year-old boy, again, leukemia. Leukemia was a death sentence in those days. And this foundation really started was for terminal children. And now it's for children with life-threatening illnesses because about 70% of the children are surviving these illnesses right now, which is great. Because through the grace of God and modern medicine, this is happening. But this little boy, 7 years old, little Hispanic boy, named Bopsy, that was his nickname, but his first name was Frank. And he got a kick that we were both called Pancho, because I've been called Pancho my whole life. Excuse me. And I was his wish granter, and the wish granter goes out and they find out what the child's wish is. So it's not the family's wish, but you interview the child. We base it on forensic interviewing. And Bopsy says, I want to be a fireman. And I'm in my uniform. I borrowed a patrol car. We're sitting inside the patrol car because his house had dirt floors. The family was a little embarrassed. I said, a fireman? I'm a policeman. What? And he just started giggling. And I thought to myself, wow, that's easy. My girlfriend at the time, her brother was a Phoenix fireman. We could make that happen. Then he said, no. I want to ride in a hot air balloon. And I thought, well, that's easy. Up in my hometown of Prescott, I know people have the hot air balloon. That's easy to do. And he said, no, I want to go to Disneyland. And I thought, whoops, we had never thought about this travel wish for some reason. So I went to the board and I said, I was the first president and CEO. And I said, what we're going to do, we're going to grant all 3 wishes, which is against the charter that we just wrote. The child gets 1 wish. I said, we're going to get so much press out of this, we're going to grant all 3. Now, the fireman thing was very easy. Contacted my girlfriend's brother. Phoenix Fire Department came together and just did the most fantastic day for Bopsy, complete with a full custom-made turnout coat and everything for him, the helmet. Got to ride on a fire truck, slide down the fire pole. And, in fact, it was March. It was nice in Phoenix. He sprayed all the cars downtown. There was no clouds that day, so you can imagine the people coming out. What the heck happened here? Hot air balloon, the same thing. Contacted the friends. He got to go on the hot air balloon. Disneyland. Now, they never heard of us. Our secretary kept calling Disney, asking for the CEO of Public Relations, explaining who we were, if we could get possibly free admission into the park, and also this little boy is in a wheelchair, very ill. Can he get to the front of the lines? They kept saying, no, we can't help you out. She came to me and said, I don't know what to do. They won't talk to me. I said, well, let me call them. Got the number for the gentleman, talking to his secretary. She said, who is this? I said, Officer Frank Shankwitz, there was on Highway Patrol. Kind of got her attention. She said, what's this about? I said, I have a warrant for one of your people. Guess who I got to talk to? The minute the gentleman got on the phone, I said, listen, I just lied to you. Here's my name, here's my badge number, here's my supervisor's name and his phone number. All you have to do is call, and I will be immediately terminated. But would you please listen to my story, which he did. Now, 38 years later, Disney being one of the biggest sponsors of the Make-A-Wish Foundation, literally millions and millions and millions of dollars, all because of a little lie. But if you're going to lie, qualify that lie, okay? That's just... But then I was a president CEO for a few years, but I had to make a career choice. I never took a salary. Everything that we went on went into the foundation to help it grow. And in fact, we started getting so much press, so much coverage. NBC, Dateline did a full feature on us. And I told our board, I said, you know what, someday we're going to be national, international, granting wishes all over the world. And they all laughed at me except one young lady. And I got my wish about 3 years later when she said, I do. Come on, ladies. Aww. But in fact, that vision came true because Make-A-Wish Foundation is now 63 chapters in the United States, 36 international chapters on 5 continents. And right now, over 450,000 wishes have been granted worldwide because of one little boy. Thank you. Thank you. And I said I had to make a career choice. I'm going to be a police officer. I'm going to run this foundation. I was so much of an expert at what I was doing, eventually got promoted to narcotics and spent most of my time in homicide. But I learned in college, surround yourself people that are smarter than you. Hire people that are smarter than you. And that's when our board made a decision to, in fact, hire the professional in the nonprofit world. We're going to have to pay a salary, but that's what you have to do in a nonprofit. Well, that was a great decision because, like I say, now the foundation has grown so big. About 5 years ago, I was speaking at an event in San Diego, and not about Make-A-Wish. I just started this professional speaking type career, as you call it. And two gentlemen came up to me and they introduced themselves and they said, I'm a producer, I'm a director, and we'd like to do a movie about your life. And I said, no, you don't. And they said, yes, we do. And I thought they were talking about a documentary. And they said, no, we want to do a full feature film on your life. So I said, well, I can do this, but I'm going to have script approval. I'm going to help with the screenplay, and let's see what we can do. And this is an independent movie. And it took 3 years to write the screenplay. The movie is based on a true story. You ever go to the movies and you see based on, that's not the true story whatsoever. Hollywood has to hype it up, or else it would be a documentary on the History Channel. So, but we finally came to agreements on some things, and we started filming in Prescott, Arizona, my hometown, the little town of Seligman, and in Yavapai County last year. And the main reason I pushed for this, I wanted to go to either New Mexico, where the majority of movies are filmed, or in Missouri. Arizona doesn't give tax breaks to film companies. But I pushed and lobbied and finally got it approved on that. And my thought was, I'm finally giving back to the community that helped me out so much. We infused millions of dollars into the community. We had a crew, just the crew itself of 40, staying there for 6 weeks, restaurants, bars, everything else, buying food. So a little bit I gave back, and the town was very appreciative of that, and they understood that. We just wrapped Friday, as I mentioned earlier, the final post-production of the movie, and Monday it goes into distributors to see if, in fact, they'll pick it up. So you can make all the movies you want, but it'll sit on a shelf until somebody buys it. We've got a little trailer for it. Now, this is a rough cut trailer, not the official one, but if we can play that trailer, maybe dim the lights here a little bit.
So my wife has this friend, and she has a young boy named Michael. So I was hoping maybe, he could come over and see the department, meet some of the guys, and see the motorcycles.
Sure, I think we can handle that.
He has leukemia, and he's not expected to live more than a week.
Ever since I was a kid, I've always been on my own. Never had any reason to care for anyone else. Till now.
Dad!
Hey, Frank!
What do you want?
Want to see my son.
Now I'll always be with you.
So long, cowboy.
He's not breathing.
Motor 1091 is a 963A. Frank's gone.
Eddie told me that you stopped breathing for a few minutes. Is that true?
If we're gonna talk, let's just talk about you. You married?
You're very direct. Are you a Scorpio? Leo? Gemini?
No.
Taurus?
Pisces.
I knew it.
I want to see Dad. He's coming to pick me up on Saturday. Not anymore. Help my head! No, I dropped my head! No! Corky, no! Corky!
Shut up, Frank! Stop it!
You in here?
Frank! Come on, let's go, Frank! Frank!
I've been a fighter all my life, and I'm tired of not knowing what to fight for. Being special was never something that I was used to. Well, Michael thought I was a hero. Now, if I can do it, anyone can be a hero.
If someone needs help, you give it to them.
Now, I never thought that I could make a difference. I was wrong. I've seen it. Just one simple act of kindness can cause a ripple effect.
I think I found my son.
I'm at the crossroads of my life, and I'm choosing which path to take. A new path of hope, dreams, and everything that's good in this world.
Oh, thank you, thank you. We had so much fun filming that. I was hired as the location scout and then also technical advisor and eventually the consulting producer. And you saw in there, if anybody remembers Chips, you saw Larry Wilcox and Robert Pine. Larry Wilcox was John in Chips, and Robert Pine played Sergeant Gutierrez. And I met Larry Wilcox several years ago. We've become very good friends. And as we're casting for this, for the role of a highway patrol sergeant, which would have been recreation of my sergeant at the time, I thought, who better than Robert Pine? I mean, that's what he did for years. So I asked Larry to introduce me. We did. Robert and I had dinner together, talked about the project. Immediately, he said, oh my God, I want that part. And so much fun working with those guys, and especially to see him interacting again. The man that plays me in my mid-30s, Andrew William Steele, Australian actor. This is his first feature role in America. But this man worked, I've been involved with several TV shows as consulting and reality, one of the actors in that. Compared to the movie, this man had to work so hard for a year and a half. Biggest thing was getting rid of that Aussie accent. Excuse me, you guys back there, but he was speaking Australian, not American, so we had to work on that with dialogue coach for quite a while. But he also had to learn how to ride motorcycles. He also had to go through weapons training. Just the whole thing on how to act as a highway patrol motorcycle officer. The young lady you saw in there, Kirby Bliss, played my girlfriend at the time, who is my wife now. She's up and coming. She just was in a Bruce Willis picture recently, had a feature role in that. And then we hired so many locals that we could for extras in the movie. Again, giving back as much as we could. So my message here today is I'm not pushing just the Make-A-Wish Foundation. In fact, I'm not involved right now. It's a conflict of interest because of this movie for me to be involved whatsoever with the foundation. I wrote those bylaws myself, so I got myself out of a speaking gig with them. But my message is, like I said, everyone can be a hero. You don't have to have money to help out in the community. You can give back with your time. If money is fine, great. But there are 1.2 million nonprofits in the United States right now. And I'm sure you can find one that maybe you believe in. But I really suggest you go to, if you find a charity you want to get involved in, go to charitynavigator.org. Charitynavigator.org. They are the watchdogs for the nonprofits in the United States. You click on whatever that one is that you're interested in, and you can find out where the money is actually going. Is it going to the mission, or is it going to fancy cars, meals, travel, everything else for the board and CEO? And unfortunately, that happens quite a bit. I do a lot of consulting for nonprofits, how to put them together. And when the first thing they ask me is, what type of salary can I take? How much can I take? I say, I'm not interested in talking to you anymore. It's about the mission. It's about the people. There are also, for the business owners, I do a lot of consulting and speaking about your brand, how to advance your brand. For instance, I spoke recently to a realty group in my little town, and they said, how can we get our name above the other realty groups in this town? I made a suggestion. I said, there's just been an article in the paper about a widow that lives in the city of Prescott. The city is after her because of weeds, everything else. Her house is falling apart. She doesn't have any money. She's living on Social Security. Let's get the whole group over there for a weekend and clean this place up, paint it, and so on. I said, I guarantee you the Phoenix TV is going to come up. The local press is going to film all this. You're going to get so much advance for your brand, for your market, which did. They did a fantastic job. And they also got the contractors. Realty knows every contractor there is. Got the contractors that come on, help them, donate materials, local Home Depots, Lowe's, etc. So they were the hero in the town. I'm involved with another nonprofit called U.S. Vets. The mission of U.S. Vets is we find the homeless veterans, get them into temporary housing, counseling, job training, job placement. And we have a chapter in Prescott. We're about 70% successful right now with that. But they needed a brand new van. to haul these guys around to the hospitals, job interviews. And I went to the local Honda dealer and I said, we need this brand new van and you guys are going to donate to us. And they, no, we're not. Well, yes, you are. And here's what we're going to do. You're going to wrap that van all about U.S. vets donated by Prescott Honda, and you're going to get so much press and coverage on that, which they did. And they said that's one of the biggest moves we made. We couldn't pay for advertising like that. So as a business owner, you can somehow give back like that. We, another nonprofit we're involved in, we're just putting together right now, I'm a board member, is called Wounded Blue. When a peace officer is hurt in the line of duty, and while he's off time, he takes his sick leave to cover his pay. Then when that runs out, he has to take his vacation to cover his pay. When that runs out, there's no money coming in. People think that the state or the county, the city, whatever it is, pays his salary. No, they don't. They don't pay a dime. Industrial Commission sometimes will give them something. So the mission of Wounded Blue, what we're doing, and it's going to be a nationwide effort, is we find out there's a police officer, city, state, county, whatever, to help pick up those salaries. And we're just successful. We just got about a $500,000 donation, and we hope to launch here in about the next 2 weeks. We filed for 501c3, and you're going to see this. In fact, President Trump's police liaison is helping us out put this all together. So again, we're giving back a little bit. And that's my message to you, ladies and gentlemen. Please, when you can, somehow give back. Remember, everyone can be a hero. And thank you.